All right, welcome everybody to the final demo presentations for CSE 125. Thank you very much for taking time out of your Friday afternoon to come see everything that the students have done. The way we're going to structure the presentations, if you haven't been here before, in previous years, I'm just going to give a brief, quick intro to the course, sort of give you a sense for what the quarter was like. And then we have 5 groups this year, and so we'll cycle through each of the groups, and they'll give roughly a 10 to 15 minute demo of each of the games that they've put together over the course of 10 weeks. And for every time a group comes up, they will also ask for 2 volunteers from the audience. So if you have any interest in playing some of the games, be ready to raise your hand when they ask. So the course, if you haven't been introduced to it before, it's a very, very different course than what we normally teach in computer science. It's entirely focused on doing a project within the quarter time frame. So it's just a single project, and it's a type of project where the students get really, really interested and passionate about what it is they're working on. So all the hard work that they do is coming from them. It's not because I'm cracking the whip. At least so I tell myself. And it's targeted for graduating seniors, so students who have taken all of the courses for their major, and they can combine them together and use everything they learned in doing the project. It's a little bit different in other courses as well because they work in large groups. It's actually between 5 and 7. And if you've ever worked in a group before, a group setting on a large project, that can be a trying experience. So it's a good experience for them to learn how to work together in a group. The games that they build, they actually do pretty much everything from scratch, but they do use a set of libraries like DirectX or OpenGL. But they actually don't use any game engines. They build the game engines themselves. And of course, we set a high bar. We want them to do as much as possible in the time that they have. And I tell them this throughout the quarter. I don't think they quite believe me, perhaps until all of this is over, but to have fun with it as well. And I certainly have fun teaching it, and I hope they had fun taking it as well. So from my perspective, in terms of putting the course together, it's a very, very trivial thing because there's only one thing on the syllabus, and that is that they have to implement a distributed real-time 3D network game. I hand it out on day 1, and it's due precisely now. And this is the only course they've taken where their final is essentially giving a public demo. So hopefully that will go okay. It's rare that while you're taking your final exam, you have a couple hundred people in the audience looking over your shoulder while you're doing it. And the project is a game, and games are a lot of fun, but it can be very easy to forget that games are actually incredibly challenging applications. They tie together so many aspects of computer science all at once. And so, when you're looking at it, yes, it is a game, but underneath the covers, it's actually a large, complex software system. There are many, many challenges in making something like this work. It's very distributed. You have multiple clients interacting with the server. It's real time. It's interactive, so it has to have relatively high performance. And there's a lot of complexity, not just the graphics, but also the networking, multiple threads, sound, animation, coordinating all these different machines together. And it just so happens that the games are fun as well, and so that's what makes the challenge a fun challenge to overcome. And the way I describe the course is it's one that I really wish I could have taken when I were in college. We had nothing like this, so I'm doing the next best thing, which is to teach it. One thing that I want to emphasize as we go through the demos and you're seeing what the students are doing, that in every way the students have made the class and their projects a success. The project ideas are entirely their own, and they solved all of the hard problems. So they stayed up late, week after week, trying to make everything work and overcome the problems that they encountered. It's a very complex environment, Windows, DirectX, lots of different libraries, lots of code, so tens of thousands of lines of code, written by multiple people that have to sort of interface and interact. lots of new tools that they may not have used before. And of course, all of this stuff is buggy in one form or another. And so they have to troubleshoot these bugs without much reference manuals being able to help them out. Google winds up being your best friend in a course like this. So the projects very, very much reflect on the students' part just the outstanding independence, initiative, and problem-solving skills that they have to be able to do this in such a short time frame. So to me, I view it as both a culmination of the curriculum that they went through in their majors in computer science, but also an incredible personal achievement on their part that they were able to pull this off, again, in just 10 weeks. And for me, it's just always incredible to watch year after year. So what I'm going to do is just give you a quick run through of sort of from, let's say, an instructor's perspective, what it's like to see the students go through the course very quickly, and then we'll wrap up and transition to the first group. So week one, start at the beginning. Everybody's really excited because they've been waiting to take the course. It's games. They finally get to implement a game that they've always wanted to implement. So enthusiasm is really running really high. They have 10 weeks. And after all, how hard could it be? It's just a small matter of coding to get this together. And then, everybody in the group goes off and sort of owns part of the game and works on their module, and then we have to start integrating them together. And that's when the lab starts to fill up and the stress starts to build, because integration, getting all this stuff to work together, winds up being a tough, tough problem. And poor Miran, every time I went in the lab, he looked incredibly stressed out. And at the same time, sometimes I'd go in there and somebody's debugging and, watching movies like The Hangover. So maybe it wasn't too stressful, or that was the way they released the stress. Or you'd see scenes like this where, Stefan is talking with David and Stefan's saying, wow, if our game worked, this is what it would look like if I were playing it. And this is really the cusp of everything coming together. And those who've been to these presentations before, they know that, of course, at the most challenging part of the quarter, that's when I take off because I have to go on a business trip. I often have to fly to various parts of the world. This year, I just happened to have to go to Paris for a defense at a university that built a new tower that towers above the city and gives you fantastic views like this. It was really rough. I'm sorry the students had to go through that. And then more weeks go by, things are starting to come together, and then around the 8th week is really the magical point of the quarter. Because at the very beginning, when the students are figuring out what it is they want to do with the game, they're sort of bouncing around ideas, coming up with concepts about what the game is going to look like. And then around the 8th week, that's when all of these ideas become real. And you can look at the screen and just see all of this happen. And this is an incredibly short amount of time that they're able to put this together. And again, it's all from scratch. It really is an incredible achievement. And then finally, 10th week, it's where we are now. It's the crunch. Everybody's in the lab, all hours. But they have their games together, and the games are working, and they're playing their games. You know that they're ready. When you go in the lab and they're not hacking, they're playing. And they're bringing their friends into play as well. It's just, a great thing to see. Okay, before I finish, I just want to acknowledge a whole bunch of people, folks in ACS who help manage the machines, Steve Hopper, who helps us with the final demos, lots of folks here in Cal IT who help us with this final presentation. And then I particularly want to thank Steve Waits and Steve Rotenberg, who are in the back there, for coming and giving guest lectures for the course. And Wolfgang, I'm not sure if Wolfgang's here, but he taught a shader course in the winter that a bunch of our students went through and were able to get a bunch of skills and really improve the qualities of their games as a result. And then some folks at Microsoft, there's Wolfgang, some folks at Microsoft who've always been very supportive in the course in terms of giving all the students free software so that they can program wherever it is they are, on the road, at home, anytime they have a free moment, they can start hacking. And a special thanks to Daniel Tenedorio, who's our TA, who unfortunately wasn't able to make it today. But he's been a big, big help for the course. So my background, I'm a systems guy, networking guy. I don't really know the graphics that much. So when the students run into graphics problems, Daniel's the one who's there to really help them out. So I really appreciate all of Daniel's help. So what we're going to see is we're going to see 5 demos from the different groups. The games are Sumo Panda, Combat Frontier, Full Feather Jacket, Ultra Capture Siege Dungeon, and The Splattening. At least that's how I read what their title is. And what we're going to do for each one of them is the students will get things up and running. They'll go through, they'll introduce the game, what the concept is, the goals, the ideas, the inspiration, and then they'll give a demonstration. We'll bring in some folks from the audience, and then we'll end and have a little bit of time for you guys to ask them any questions you would like about what it is they did in terms of putting the games together. And then I just want to end by giving a plug to the Jacob School of Rock, which is going to happen immediately after this demo from 6 p.m. to midnight over in Porter's Pub. So if you guys want to rock out after the demos, highly recommend heading over there. Okay, great. With that, we're going to start.